Hi, this is Aaron Peters, and we're talking with Sharon. And Sharon's been. You're currently an elder at Indian Métis Friendship Center.
Yes.
Right. And you wanted to talk about some pretty serious stuff. You wanted to talk about suicide.
Yes, I want to talk about suicide.
So Sharon told me her story, and it's a pretty heavy story. Sharon actually committed suicide, and came back, right?
Yeah.
Now, first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty of your story, I wanted to... The thing that struck me about your story is that you were dead.
I was dead.
And you know this because when you came back, your body...
My body was cold.
Yeah.
My coloring was, my skin was gray. Then my nails were purple-blue. My lips were purple and blue.
You looked in the mirror and you saw all this.
I saw it. I looked in the mirror and I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was so cold, and it was the hottest day of that year.
And this happened in Winnipeg?
No, it happened in Calgary.
Happened in Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Do you want to talk about the man on the bridge, or do you want to go right into your story, because it takes a little bit of time?
I'll start with the man on the bridge.
Okay. So you were 8 years old.
No, when I seen the man on the bridge, I was 3.
You were 3 years old.
I was 3 when I seen the man on the bridge. I had woken up, and I was used to having my grandparents around.
And this was in Winnipeg because
That
it was
was
the
in
Salter
Winnipeg.
Bridge.
Yes, it was Salter Bridge.
Okay. And
And
back in the days when they had
The staircases.
the staircases.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore.
They don't have it anymore now. Yeah, so we used to live on Henry Avenue, and my grandparents used to live right close by us. And I was used to having my grandfather around and my grandmother. And when I woke up I woke up around 3 o'clock. And the reason why I say that is because that's the time I wake up all the time, still today. And I looked around for my grandparents and couldn't find them, so I left my house. My mom and dad were still sleeping. And I remembered them talking about moving across the bridge.
Your grandparents moved from where they usually lived, which is where did they usually live?
They used to live right across the street from us on Henry Avenue, just on the other side of the Salter Bridge, and then they moved over to where the developments are, on Stella Walk.
And you went to go see them?
And I went to go see him 3 o'clock in the morning. And
why were you... Was that a regular thing that you did?
Yeah, I was used to being up with my grandparents at that time, especially my grandfather. He was up every day at 3 o'clock, and we'd have breakfast, and then everybody else would be asleep, and he'd tell me stories. So I was used to being up with my grandpa, and he wasn't around. So I went looking for him. That's the reason why I ended up on the bridge. And when I was going up the side of the bridge and the stairways, I come across this man sitting there. And he was tying a belt onto the staircases. And he was referring to me as a little angel, and he says, "Look here, little angel," he says, you're not gonna help me tonight." He says, "I don't want anybody to help me." He says, "So you be on your way," he says, "and you make sure you don't look back." So I didn't know what he was talking about, so I just started to walk over the bridge, and I can hear the metal, the pulling on the metal and that, and then something dangling, but I didn't look back like he told me to. I just kept going, and
You remember the sound of that?
I remember the sound of that distinctly. Yeah. And I remember when I got to my grandparents' place, and I told my grandfather about what had happened. Of course, my grandfather had to check it out first, and when he got back, he made a phone call. Yeah. But I didn't know back then that that was my first experience with somebody committing suicide. Not until I got older and I started to understand what suicide really was all about.
You've had a lot of, well, we're Native people, so
Yeah.
we've had a lot of experience with people who have committed suicide in our circles.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't experienced actually talking to somebody who, like yourself, who came back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty unique for me to have this conversation.
Yeah.
You want to get right into it?
Yeah, but I think that I want to explain first that my mom was a residential school survivor. Well, she didn't really survive. She ended up dying before all the residential school money came out. And my mom was very suicidal. She was always talking about suicide and taking her life and things like that, and sending us to CFS. So I started to understand, for her though, she used it as a tool to get what she wanted.
She used suicide as a tool?
She used suicide as a tool to get what she wanted. And I think for her it was because the only thing that we knew of value was life. Life had value. Life was sacred. And that's why she used to threaten suicide. And for me, my first attempt at suicide was when I was about 8 years old. And I took a bunch of pills. I took nerve pills back then because I had a nervous rash on both my arms here. And they had me on nerve pills. And I never really got to take them. My mom used to take them instead. But I was the one who was, like, I was trying to maintain a life, taking care of my brothers and sisters, and I had to take care of my mom because she was not only addicted to pills, she was also addicted to alcohol. And I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me, and I just wanted... at
8 years old?
At 8 years old. And I just wanted to end my life. And I took pills. And I remember going to the hospital. My mom was beating me up all the way. And then when I got to the hospital, like she hit me and told me to walk because the doctors wanted me to walk. And I had to show them that I could walk. And I did the best that I could do. And even I was staggering, and they kept me for the night. And then the next day, my mom says, "You better walk because I'm going to punch you out if you don't." So I walked, and I took it really slow and took it very carefully because I didn't want to get beaten up. Right? And then my mom was also mad because I took all the pills. Not just mine, I took hers as well. So she had nothing. And
that was your first suicide attempt at 8 years old?
Yeah, my first suicide attempt. And later on I tried slashing my wrist.
How old were you when you did that?
I was about 12. I was about 12 years old, 13, somewhere around there. And then when I was in my 20s, my early 20s, my mom passed away from cancer, and she had saved my life. And I was so angry at her. I thought that, because alcohol, she became a rubby.
So, when you say that she saved your life, that's because of the accident, right?
Yeah.
Quickly tell us about the accident.
My mom was sober that day, and her and I went to get our glasses, our eyes examined, and pick out our glasses. And we were living in Calgary at the time, and on McLeod Trail, there's the lanes are about 4, maybe 5 lanes to the road, and then there's a median, and then 4 or 5 lanes on the other side, one going one way, one going the other. And we were at a stop crosswalk. So we were crossing the road, and the very last lane, and I was walking ahead of my mother, and she come up behind me and she pushed me. And I remember the car hitting my hand. It hit my right hand, and it knocked my arm up. And when I turned around to look at my mom, it was like it was in slow motion. And she hit the windshield, like the car hit her, and then she rolled across the hood, and then she hit the windshield, and she slowly fell to the ground.
And what happened was you got to see all that, and she had a cracked pelvis.
Yeah, she had a cracked pelvis, and there was a lot of bruising, and the doctors just told her to come back, and they'd check on her. And about a year later, that cracked pelvis turned into cancer, like the broken pelvis turned into cancer. And I know it was from that injury, because there was no other reason for her to get cancer in that area. And my mom, when she got really, really super ill, I spent a lot of time with her, and I was taking nursing at the time. And
How old are you now during this time?
How old am I now?
Like, while you're talking, where you got to know your mom?
Oh, I was about 21 when I started to get to know my mom.
And how old were you when the accident happened?
I was 20. I was 20. And anyway, my mom was... I started to get to know this woman. Like, it was like I never knew who she was all the time that she was drinking, because she was a different woman. And when she was sober, she was such a beautiful woman, very kind and caring and loving, and I never really knew her. So I was just starting to get to know who my mom was, like, who she really was without the alcohol. And I was so angry when she passed, because I felt cheated. And anyway, I was also very angry at my first husband, because he stole her wedding bands, her wedding rings, and I knew where they were, and she kept asking for them when she was on her deathbed. And it was very disturbing to me, because I wanted to give them back to her. And I knew that my husband had stolen them, and he had traded the rings for a car. And I carried that guilt. And it really wasn't mine to carry, but I carried it anyway. And my marriage broke up, I think maybe about 3 to 6 months later. And I paid him to leave me. I gave him money to go. Told him that he wasn't going to, if he came back, I wasn't going to take him back. And he left. And when he left, I went on a rampage of alcohol and drugs myself. And I was doing some pretty heavy duty drugs, and I drank quite a bit. And I had a bad reputation for fighting and stuff. The man at the bar, he used to pay me $15 a night if I left quietly, because he said that I made his bouncers look like they were sex or whatever. I didn't understand what he meant. And anyway, I got to a point in my life where I just wanted to give up. I was in so much despair, and felt my children would be better off without me as well. They'd have a better life without me, because I didn't really have too much of a life to offer. And anyway, I just wanted to give up, and I had cancer myself. I had breast cancer at the time, and I had black fluid coming from my breast, and the doctors were giving me a lot of Tylenol 3s, and I didn't really take them, but I kept them in the medicine cabinet at my sister's place. Now, when I finally decided that I wanted to die, I had this plan already in my head, and I went out and I got myself a Mickey of whiskey, and I went inside the bathroom and started swallowing the pills. And there must have been about 90 of those Tylenol 3s, because I had a lot of those bottles. I had about 3 different bottles, and I swallowed all of them. I think maybe I might have dropped a couple down the sink, but I basically swallowed all of them. And I knew I was already starting to feel it, and I just started to drink the whiskey, and went and sat down, made myself comfortable on the couch, and laid down and was ready to die. And when I first shut my eyes, I remember feeling that pain in my heart, that loneliness or despair, and that loss, that grief. But it was even worse, because I was first in this place where I can hear my brothers and sisters talking about me and saying, like, why was she so selfish? Why did she do that? And didn't she ever think about us? And then I was just like, I can feel it tearing at my heart. And the more that I heard from my family members, the worse it felt.
And these are voices that you heard?
These were voices that I was hearing.
And what were you seeing as you were?
And at first I just seen, at first it was just dark. And then I was told I can hear this other voice, and it said, turn around. And I turned around, and I can see that very small speck of light way off in the distance. And I started walking towards it, because I was told, now go to that light. So I started walking towards that light, and I remember seeing different colors passing me by. And as I got closer to that light started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally it was just big enough for me to get in. It wasn't like a great big huge door. It was just big enough for me to get through. So I walked inside that light. But as I was going towards that light, I could hear that voice telling me, everybody has got a certain time on the earth. Everybody's given a certain time. You would feel that pain, that suffering that you had inflicted upon others. until your time was either up or they forgave you. And that's how long you would have suffered. But because you were chosen before you were born to do something, right? And no one else can do it but you. And that's the reason why you're being given this chance. And then I walked inside the light, and I dropped to my knees because I can feel that overwhelming sensation of love. It was just so beautiful. I never felt it. And I began to cry. That was so beautiful. I never experienced that kind of love in my lifetime. And anyway, I seen a man standing there. And that man didn't have just one color of skin. His skin kept changing, all different colors. And when I looked into his eyes, he was like I could see fire in his eyes. There's nothing else I could see of him. And I can hear the water behind him. I knew that there was a lake because I can hear that water. And I can hear the children playing and dogs barking. They were happy. You can hear the happiness, eh? And the older people, I can hear them joking around and laughing as well. And I could have swore I recognized some of those voices of people that I knew that had passed. And that man started to talk, and he said, yes, you were chosen before you were born to do a job in the world that nobody else can do. And because of that, and the fact that you made a promise to God, the Great Spirit, the Creator of all things, because you made that promise, you have to fulfill it before you can come back here. And you have to go back. And when he said I had to go back, I grabbed hold of his legs, and I grabbed hold of him tight, and I was begging him, please don't send me back. I don't want to go back. And he says, yeah, you must go back. He says, but so that you remember this visit and that this is real. Every time you look into the mirror, you're going to have something to remember. Remember this by. And he sent me back. It was just like a bolt of lightning. And I remember sitting up and I'm going, and my sister was sitting beside me on the chair beside the couch. Mm-hmm. And she dropped the phone and she went running across the room and she was swearing. She just ran out of the room. I don't even know where she went. And I realized I had a bunch of blankets on top of me. And yet it was such a hot day out. But my body, I was so cold. I was just shivering. My hands were shaking. My mouth was twittering, like when you're really super cold. And I went into the kitchen. And I started to pour myself a cup of coffee, trying to warm up. And my sister come running out of one of the rooms. And she grabbed the knife that was on the counter, and she grabbed it and she went, ooh, about this far away from my heart. She says, you ever want to do something like that again? She says, you just let me know and I'll do it for you. She says, you don't know what you put me through. And then later on she told me it was she was phoning the morgue to come and get me, the coroner's office, because I couldn't warm up. Because she didn't know that she knew I was gone after I didn't warm up, and I was dressed up so warm, like with all those blankets. But when I first came to, I looked around and I went into the bathroom. I was still pretty cold for a long time. It took me a long time to warm up. But my skin was all gray. My lips were purple and blue. My eyes, around my eyes, they were purple and blue. My nails were all purple and blue as well. My hands can see that they were a gray color, right? And I didn't look like myself. There was nothing there to indicate that I was alive. It was just like I was a walking corpse. And I never noticed it right away. And at first I blew it off as, just a dream. But then I started to notice eagles, and medicine people were trying to give me feathers and eagle feathers, and I kept saying no, no, no. And some people said, well, come with us, we'll take you to the sacred mountain, and we'll get you to fast and you'll heal. But I did already heal. Like my breasts were no longer leaking when I woke up. I had no more black fluid coming from them, and I had no more pain. And I didn't notice my eyes until later on because, of course, when I first came back, I didn't want to believe it, so I was still drinking and doing drugs. And not for very much longer, though, because once they got me into a sweat lodge, because the things that I was experiencing, like I was experiencing visions and during the day, and I was experiencing nightmares during the night. And finally, when I went to the sweat lodge, I went inside there, and I was the only woman. There was no man. And I was told what to bring, because that medicine man phoned me and told me what to bring. And because women never used to go for sweats. I used to send my son to go for sweats, but I never went. And I guess he must have been telling that man what was going on, or that man somehow knew. So he phoned me and asked me to come. And when I went there, I went inside that lodge, and when I came out, I never had another drink. And because I was away from the drugs and the alcohol, like the heavy drugs and stuff like that, and I finally started to look inside the mirror. And when I looked inside the mirror, I started to notice that, because both my eyes used to change color, right? Both my eyes used to go blue, green, gray, and yellow. And they both used to change the same color. And sometimes they go almost to brown. And then I started to notice that my one eye was always blue. This eye here is always blue. And this eye here was the one that kept changing. And some days they're almost the same color, but they're never ever the exact same color. Yeah. So that's when I started to realize that it really was true. And for me, I was lucky I was sent back. Because if they didn't send me back, I wouldn't have went there. But the one thing that I remember is that before he sent me back, he said that when I'm finished doing what I have to do, then I'll go home. Then I can go back there, but not until then. So I know that suicide isn't a way out. It's a way of creating more misery for your spirit.
Tell us again what he said about feeling that pain over, like.
Yeah, the pain. I would feel that pain and despair until my time was up, because everybody's supposed to have a certain time to live in this world. Everybody's got a certain time, and if you take your life before that time is up, you'll live in that place, that darkness, and you'll hear the voices of the loved ones, and you'll hear how they feel. You'll feel how they feel. You'll feel the pain that you inflicted from taking your life, because when I was taking my life, right up until that point, I didn't realize what I was doing to my loved ones, to my brothers and my sisters, and to my dad and my children. I thought nobody cared. And I learned that I was totally wrong, that I was hurting all these people. And it was my spirit. Like, if I would have stayed there, my spirit would have felt all of that pain that I caused them. And I would have carried that pain either until they forgave me, right? Or until my time was up. And I believe that would have been a long time. So I'm lucky that I was sent back.
So what goes through your mind when you think about, like, over the years, have you thought back to that whole experience? And what like, how do you deal with it? What are your thoughts? Have your thoughts changed over the years since that happened to you, or?
Yeah. Oh yes, most definitely. I remember now the teachings. I really know the teachings now when they say life is sacred. I understand the sacredness of that life. And no matter what you go through in life, you'll never be able to, Creator will never give you more than what you can handle. And you can always handle it by finding somebody to talk to. If it's not a human, you can go out in the bush, you can talk to animals. I do a lot of that, because I have a problem with trusting people. So I've learned how to deal with that in other ways. Sometimes I go to the sweat lodge and I talk directly to Creator and grandfathers, or I find somebody that I can trust, and they're very few and far between. Like I said, I have a trust issue. Mm-hmm. But a dog will never tell nobody. A cat will never tell nobody. The trees, they'll whisper in the winds, but they'll never tell you, never tell what you're telling them. And I find a way of letting it go. And then one thing that I've learned is that I can always find a way out of it. There's never a reason to actually take your life. Like, when I start feeling really bad, I'll ask a child, give me a hug. And when you feel the love of the child, then that gives you strength to carry on for that day. And one day leads into another and another. And sometimes when I make a mistake and I get myself into a place where I want to commit suicide, or you feel like that, what I do is I ask not only for forgiveness, but I also ask that I'll be given the strength to forgive myself, because we're the hardest ones on ourselves. Yeah. And I learned that one from an elder. But life is so sacred. We take it for granted.
The feelings of despair, I think, is something that everybody can relate to at some point.
Yeah.
I know that I've felt that in my life too. When you said that you don't feel like we talked before about this, and you said that you felt like people would be better off without you.
Yeah.
Right? Like things would be better for them.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling that myself. And it's a really dark place to be. But that's a real place for a lot of people, where they really are convinced that their kids and their spouse and their family members will be better off if they weren't around. Like, they're convinced of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real place.
Yeah, it is.
It's a real human place to be. I don't like all the suicides that are happening, and I just hope that by us talking like this, I hope that people can share this little film, and maybe sit down with their friends and family and watch it too, and maybe get some insight on what is real.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a pretty big issue for Native people. It's a huge issue for Native people. And the one thing that I want to see more of myself is I want to see more of us talking about it.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about it.
No, we don't.
And we need to. We need each other. So I want to thank you for talking to me about it, because I think this is what it looks like. And we need to show the rest of the people that this is how you talk about suicide.
Yeah.
You share, you talk, you say what you need to say.
Yeah. And I'd like to see that too. And I know that from being in my own community, because I'm from the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, and when somebody commits suicide, we put the youth on a suicide watch, because if one does it, then there's usually a chain that goes on. And we don't want to lose the ones that we love. You know, like we may make mistakes in life. Nobody's perfect, but we don't want to watch our loved ones die. You know, a parent, when they look at their child, no matter how old their child gets or whatever it is that they do in life, they're always going to be a baby in the eyes of their parents. And nobody wants to lose the ones that they love. I was one of the lucky ones, but I don't believe that they're going to keep sending everybody back. And you know, and I don't know what happens to their spirit afterwards. Because, like, for me, to be honest, I see like being here in the world, I see this as hell. But hell is whatever you make it. Life is whatever you make it. We survived at rock bottom. Never knew what anything above that was. So despair was there almost all the time.
And people don't realize that there's a lot of Native people that they're still living like that. They're still living like that. And yeah, we gotta talk to each other.
Yeah, that's the big step. Reaching out and accepting that help, or looking for that help. And there's always somebody there that is willing to listen. And if people can't talk to somebody that's close by, there's Teen Talk, or, you know, there's hotlines out there that are willing to listen, and you don't know those people.
Yeah.
So it's safe. It's safe to talk to them. But it's not good to actually follow through on those thoughts of dying, or those plans of taking your own life. Because that's what the government wants us to do. They want us to either take our own lives or to take the lives of another Indian. They don't want us to survive. So, you know, the best thing is to just keep trying, keep doing your best day by day. You know, if you say a prayer and ask for help, somewhere along the line that help will come.
And the world won't be better off without you.
That's right. The world won't be better off.
The world will be a worse place because you did that.
Yeah. Because you're affecting the lives of those that love you. That's the one thing that you can't forget.
Thanks for talking.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for listening.